Actually, Zelen and the god of matter were very close to each other. However, when its two tentacles were cut off, the shock left it standing frozen, making its presence seem to disappear. As the dust cleared, both could see each other clearly, as well as the severed tentacles flung skyward, causing the god to panic and scream. My body was cut? The fresh blood stains on the wounds were undeniable proof. How could it believe otherwise? But Zelen didn't care whether the god believed it or not. What mattered was the sheer satisfaction of the moment. Even with only one remaining claw, it had accomplished what it set out to do, a rapid series of ket 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 sounds echoed as the mantis stretched its back and let out a triumphant laugh. See? I am not weak. The weak are never me. Its regained confidence made the god of matter furious. I still have plenty of tentacles left. Your blade seems sharp, but can you dodge this many at once? The cunning god planned to block all of the mantis's escape routes, but before its massive tentacles could strike, Zelen suddenly vanished before its eyes. More accurately, it had just opened a small rift and slipped inside before the monstrous appendages could touch it. What? Retreating into the void? The god of matter thought it was losing its vision, staring in disbelief. Before the light trail of the first rift fully closed, another one opened right behind it. From that rift, Zelen shot out like an arrow, its signature green claw gleaming, aiming for another tentacle. There were so many that it wanted to cut them all, so, instead of picking just one, the mantis delivered a massive slash, cleaving through half of its opponent's enormous body. The god's massive form collapsed onto the ground, as if its legs had just been severed. Once again, the god was in shock. It glanced at the severed tentacle. Blood dripping from the wound, then, with dawning horror, it realized that it had fallen because its own legs had also been sliced through. Capper questioned in disbelief. How did it even know where my legs were? There was no time for an answer. Zelen's insane speed had already closed the distance. Thinking it was attacking from behind, the god was caught off guard when Zelen suddenly changed direction and struck from the side. A clean, precise slash severed another tentacle instead of aiming for the legs like before. The unexpected yet simple approach shattered the god's carefully calculated defenses. A being of immense power had been wounded yet again. Then, around 20 towering beams of light crashed down, slamming into the earth from the sky, forming a cage around the octopus-like god. Each beam seemed to land outside at first, but in reality, every single one of them slashed directly into the god of matter. The relentless assault forced the god to hunch over, coughing violently. Though it had no visible mouth, blood poured out endlessly. Zelen circled above before diving straight down toward the god at full force, mouth wide open in a battle cry. This time, it was a full frontal assault, an obvious declaration. I have come to take your life. What, just cutting off a few tentacles and you already feel proud? Hasn't the god of matter still not retaliated properly? Now, its true performance was about to begin. Suddenly, swoosh! A radiant sphere of light burst forth, with the god of matter at its core. The closer to the center, the deeper the purple hue, it gradually transitioned to a bright white as it spread outward. It was as if a massive light bulb had been switched on. The only difference was that this light bulb created an overpowering field of energy in an instant. Zelen was charging in too fast to stop. The white light engulfed it completely. The moment Zelen made contact, the sphere detonated in a grand explosion. The power of this attack was no joke. It reduced everything within its radius to dust. Even the ground bore deep intersecting lines, resembling a checkered battlefield. Some might wonder, if Zelen was able to slice through the god's tentacles, how was the god able to withstand the explosive impact of its own spirit energy? The answer was simple. It had once again hardened its tentacles to their maximum defensive state. In this form, they became nearly indestructible, like solid stone statues. However, the trade-off was that they could no longer move flexibly. The god of matter could rapidly shift between these two states, and a single tentacle could even hold both states simultaneously. This allowed it to keep its base agile while making the tips razor-sharp, easily piercing into Zelen's chest. The mantis hung limply at the tip of the tentacle, its small body impaled with a gaping hole. Ha ha! Thought I could kill you even in my normal state. I suppose you do have some strength after all. The god sneered. This alternating hard-soft technique was its ultimate secret weapon, no matter how reckless warriors like Zelen charged in. They would always meet the same fate, just a little bit of resistance before inevitable death. The tentacles slithered around the massive blood-red eye at the god's core. The gods of this planet always had the most incomprehensible appearances. Clearly, the god of matter still had more tricks up its sleeve, but Zelen didn't care. Even while impaled, it fought back furiously. I haven't lost yet! But then, what was that? Something shot back in response, blasting Zelen's entire claw apart. A flicker of horror flashed in its pupils, not just its claw, the wings behind it, and even 2 sections of its body had been severed. A cluster of energy split into multiple sharp beams. Striking without warning, Zelen had no time to react. The glowing energy still shimmered on the god's tentacle. You should be honored to witness my divine form before you die. With those words, the massive beam expanded, swallowing almost the entirety of Zelen's vision. All it could see was the crimson pupil at the center of the light. Zelen struggled, but there was no escape. Spirit energy surged in like a flood, crashing against its fragile body. A bitter thought filled its mind. Was this how it was going to die, powerless? The god's light was beautiful yet utterly destructive. Had it gone overboard against Zelen? Or was its power simply this immense by nature? Swoosh! The light shot forward, carving a deep trench in the ground. Even the massive black pillar, previously undamaged by White Tiger's 3-eyed attack, was now visibly dented. Zelen. Was it truly dead? Thud! A foot landed on the ground. But it wasn't the god of matters, nor was it Zelen's. The foot was golden. The god's eyes widened in shock, staring at the newcomer. Their stance was firm, but the billowing cloak in the wind carried an air of effortless grace. Zelen was still alive. Its incredible life force had sealed its wounds, but it had never expected to survive. As it struggled to stand from a distance, it caught sight of 2 beautiful, glowing antennae. Wasn't that its wife? Golden Ant! Zelen whispered in shock. It had been saved by its beloved. Golden Ant had appeared in spectacular fashion, rescuing Zelen in the blink of an eye. Now, it turned, staring coldly at the god, saying nothing. In the misty mountains, there was nothing colder than its gaze. Its presence alone exuded such overwhelming force that even the god of matter hesitated to attack. A golden exoskeleton, the head of an ant. Red eyes filled with murderous intent. There was no doubt this was one of the strongest beings among the enemy forces. You are one of the 10 great beasts? It asked curiously, its tone carrying disbelief, as if questioning how such a small creature could be among the fearsome 10 great beasts. Golden Ant did not answer the deity of matter's question but instead responded mockingly. A god? As its eyes flared up, the wind howled wildly, and 2 rapid slashes struck the deity of matter. The seemingly indestructible body exploded at the point of impact with a loud bang. Its entire form was shattered. Pain surged into its mind, and every single severed piece of flesh felt the brush of death. A wave of fear swept through the deity of matter. In shock, it looked around and realized, wait, nothing had happened. Both sides were still standing there, merely facing off against each other. So, where did that pain come from? Where did the vision of being cut apart originate? Was it an illusion? The deity of matter eyed the tiny ant standing nearby, wondering, was it the creature's killing intent that caused this illusion? Just how terrifying was its murderous aura? How many had fallen under its claws? With a sudden whoosh, Golden Ant's foot left the ground, and the earth beneath immediately sank from the force. It aimed for that red eye. It looked soft, possibly a weak point, intending to sink its mandibles deep into it. But the deity of matter was no slow opponent. It swiftly raised a reinforced tentacle to block the attack. Clang! The mandibles clashed against the tentacle, leaving a deep crimson gash. The strike was precise and incredibly powerful. Wherever it landed, the reinforcement was sliced cleanly, causing blood to spill instantly. The speed. It was too fast, even faster than a mantis. The deity of matter hadn't reinforced the entire tentacle in time, resulting in the clean cut. However, What the deity of matter did not know was that this was merely Golden Ant's basic strength. At that moment, its spiritual energy surged forth, amplifying its power sixfold, expanding the range of its attacks, and slashing towards the eye. Has no one taught you manners? Don't stare at people like that! The slash tore through the eye, through the body, through the tentacle, and even sliced off a corner of the Black Tower's roof. The power was terrifying, hundreds of times greater than the attacker's own size, but it was executed with remarkable precision. Carefully avoiding Zelen, who was still recovering behind them, the mantis remained motionless, staring intently at the tiny cloaked figure of his beloved. Golden Ant stood there as if it had nothing to do with the previous explosion. Its calm and indifferent demeanor sent chills through Zelen, beyond just the fear of its strength. Wasn't that a bit too much? Just one strike? Thinking back, offering its head to Golden Ant for a bite that day made complete sense, didn't it? And yet, despite that overwhelming power, the red being before them didn't have so much as a scratch. The god continued to gaze at Golden Ant, knowing that the real battle was only beginning. This would be a fight to the death. The tiny ant was ready. Are you?